Why, hello there. It's Ryan. Long time no video, but I did not have a computer for a while because my other one broke. But now I'm back with a monster of a machine. So, as you can tell by the title of this video, I'm going to be going over how I go about being the one-man metal band on a budget. It's really cheap to record and get decent sounds now compared to like what it was, considering I didn't have to buy like a $7,000 drum recording like area and all the equipment and everything. So like it's really cheap compared to what it could be. I'm not saying it's like $30, but it could be a lot worse buying all the mics and amps and everything. So without further ado, the stuff I'm going to be using in this tutorial or video lesson thing is Native Instruments Guitar Rig 5, this thing, and Toontrack's Superior Drummer right here, and the rest of it is actually FL Native stuff, so like massive and everything. And this, don't worry about this, I thought I was going to do an orchestra thing over here, right here. Probably not. So, this is what it sounds like when I do it. I don't know how loud it is, so just kind of brace yourself. Playing in 3, 2, 1. Alright, you get the point, and then it does some more stuff. But, yeah. So, let's jump right in. So the first thing you're going to need when recording guitars and bass is an audio interface, and that's essentially like a box that you can plug a guitar into that then plugs into your computer. I have the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, and it works flawlessly. It's like $150 or something like that, and it works for everything I've ever needed, and the latency is not bad at all, and I personally love it. It's fantastic. So I can put a link to that in the description, but because of the way OBS, my screen recorder, works, I cannot record using this as my audio source, so I'm just going to have to verbally explain the next part. So when you plug it in and you install all the drivers and everything, you're then going to come into your mixer, and this slot right here is it's going to have exactly this, but instead of saying like FL Studio ACO inputs and everything, it's going to have, for me, Focusrite like USB driver in 1, in 2. So whatever brand you get, it'll say something like that. You're going to click whichever one you've plugged your guitar into, and then all of a sudden your guitar signal is coming through your computer, and it's going to sound a little something like this. Just that clean, twangy, disgusting guitar that it's basically playing an unplugged guitar. That's essentially what it is. So then you're going to take that, and then you're going to add all your effects to it. So, as I said, I use a Guitar Rig 5 because it's a very good amp modeling simulator and everything. And honestly, for a Guitar Rig, I just use all presets all the time because why not? I'm just going to end up getting the same guitar sound if I build it myself. So I use Hardcore 51 for my distortion, and it sounds like this. So it's pretty solid. I like to think so. And one thing that is relatively important is this sound does not sound like terribly great by itself, but that's because I've EQ'd it to fit the mix very specifically. And so, like, I've heard it described as your jam tones, like the tones you'll just sit at home and like play along to. The super beefy, like heavy tone is not always going to be the tone that fits in your mix super well. So just keep that in mind when designing your tone, that it's not always going to sound fantastic when it's like soloed and isolated. All right. So anyways, next, like you just saw, I've got an EQ, and this knocks out the low end and the high end. And this is relatively important because this leaves a ton of room for the kick and the bass to do their job. And they need to do their job because that's the point of metal, is to have like full spectrum bass, like heavy and everything. And this high pass cuts out the highs, obviously, and this low pass rather, my bad, and it leaves room for the cymbals and there's a synth in here, and it does have some higher frequency stuff. So it leaves room for all of that to do its job and fill up that area. So I also have a little boost around the 2000 hertz and a little bit of a cut around the 900 hertz. That was completely to taste. It's just like what I thought sounded good. So yeah, and that's the guitar tone. And then before you record, I use Edison, and Edison is an FL exclusive thing. So I'm sorry if like you don't have FL and you're watching this. I'm 100% sure your DAW has some way of doing exactly what this does, but it basically records the input. And one important thing about this idea is if I put it in the first slot on my effects chain, so that way it's recording the let me turn this off. It's recording this. It's recording that dry signal because it's the first thing in the effects chain. Like, the order of your effects chain matters tremendously if you didn't know. If I were to put it after everything, it would record the distorted sound, and if I ever wanted to go back and make any changes to the tone, then like I would have to re-record every guitar part, and that would be annoying, like really annoying. So put it as the first thing in your chain, and then you only have to play it right once, and then you can just tweak everything to your heart's desire, and that's a good time. But so the next thing is double tracking. And so for a guitar, you probably see I have a bunch of guitars with a bunch of different pannings going on, and that is because double tracking is very, very important. So let's just take this first riff that you've heard many times as an example. So this is what it sounds like if it's mono. So that's like just in the center. It does not sound as wide and as powerful as you are used to hearing in metal. So what people do is they double track it, which means you record it twice and you pan one super hard right and one super hard left. And just so you know, these two things are both the exact same tone. There's literally no difference between the two. And that's important, so it sounds uniform. And then you get this if you double track it. And for this particular song, I actually have two guitar parts, so I actually like to quad track it. which means I have to record it 4 times. And if you're going to quad track, something I like to do is, this is guitar 2 right here, essentially. And for guitar 2, I take it and I don't pan it all the way. I pan it to about 79. And that just makes it so not everything is all the way out on its sides. It just occupies a different space, you know, and it makes it feel even more full, even though when it's the same riff 4 times. So there's that, and that's basically all I have to say about guitar recording. And if just in case you were wondering, this clean sound right here. It's another preset. It's called Clean Cave, and I really like it just because of the massive reverb on it. I even put on more just because I wanted just a ton of reverb, and I just wanted it to go on for forever. So that finishes up guitars basically. You record it twice if you only have one guitar part. You record it twice for each guitar part essentially, because at live performances, the lead guitar player doesn't sit around not playing until the rhythm, or until there's a lead part. It plays the rhythm part the entire time until there's a lead part. So yeah, look at Periphery live. They have 3 guitar players, and even when it's a breakdown, they're all playing the same exact thing. It's not just the rhythm guitar player playing. So yeah, that's that. I guess the next logical step would be to explain my bass process, and then I'll get to drums. Don't you worry. And this is the bass tone. Yeah. So the bass is rather important, because without it, it sounds like this. Fills up that low end nicely. But for bass, it's not nearly as simple as what one would hope. So I've got the same Edison thing running before all of the effects, but then I have a patcher, and this patcher might look scary, and if you're in a different DAW, then I hope you know how to do what I'm about to say. I guess you could split this up into 2 separate mixer channels, but other than that, I've honestly got no idea what to say to those of you not in Fruity Loops. But anyways, for my bass tone, what I've got is this is done with real amp stuff all the time, so I'm just trying to emulate it in FL. So I've got a compressor which isn't doing anything on this channel, and this channel is literally just the clean channel. Let me turn this up for a second. Yeah, it's not doing anything. I've got slight saturation, and then I've got a clean bass, and that is it. It's basically getting compressed a little bit in the guitar rig, and then EQ'd to taste, knocking out the high end, knocking out the extreme low end around 50, and then it's going straight into a Maximus, which is actually doing a little bit of compression, but barely any really. So that's half of it. That's the top half. And then I've got this thing, which is actually, it's got the low and high muted. So it's basically a bandpass. It's just the mids, and that's it. And then it's getting run through this thing. And this is pick bass distorted, and I'm pretty sure I threw on Transamp right here, and it's just a distortion plugin or component in Guitar Rig, and it distorts it. And this is what it sounds like. Oh, my bad. And then it gets run through this, and it's knocking out most of the body and all of the high, and then I carved out a lot around the 950. So this is what that sounds like. Doesn't sound great at all alone, but if you mix it, Still doesn't sound great, but then if you put it in the mix, then all of a sudden you have a bass tone that isn't just a clean bass tone, which is what I used for a while, and it sucks. So try out different things with this, obviously. Everything in this video, experiment with your own, and then find what works for you. This just happens to be what works for me. So next, I've got Superior Drummer as my virtual drummer. Superior Drummer is by Toontrack. If you didn't know, I love this software. It's probably one of the better drum machines out there and available right now. So I've got Superior Drummer, and I've got every mic position running into the mixer, and you can do that by going to the mixer, right-clicking right here, and clicking multi-channel on the output right here, and then going over to processing and hit auto map outputs, and then you've got everything coming through 7 mixer inserts, so you can solo different mic positions like this. And yeah, that's a fun time. But so what I do for drums is I make this set, and I choose all of the things I want, all of the cymbals, the snare. I usually like higher snares for metal, and all of the toms, and then I route it out. I EQ the kick, and this kick is fairly flat with a little bit of a dip in the middle, and then a peak, a little bit of a peak in the high end, and that's basically just to let it cut through instead of being like a thump in the low end, because that's kind of what it was before I peaked this. So I wanted it to actually have like a transient and an attack. So that's why I peaked the high end. So there's that. And then I've got the snare, which has a very, very small peak, just right around 2000. And like that was just completely to taste. And then it's got reverb, because I like the snare to have reverb, just because I like the snare to have reverb. All of this is basically to taste. And then I actually have nothing else on, or nothing on the snare bottom mic. And then I've got this on the hi-hat. And that's completely to taste. Knock out the little bit of low end that was there, and take out a little bit of the intensity right around 4000. Again, all to taste. And then nothing else on anything except for a Maximus, which is a multi-band compressor for you non-FL users. And it's doing nothing except for compressing it a lot and then bringing down like the post gain. So trying to make it punchy, but I still didn't want it like super loud. So yeah. And that is essentially everything about my recording process and doing metal. And just in case you were wondering, I can go over the synth really quick. It's probably the most basic thing ever. It is literally saw waves. So I hope you can figure this out based on just this right here. And yeah, that is my process for recording metal. And wow, voice crack. That's my process for recording metal. And I tried to go over just like simply the ideas and the like techniques in this video, not focus too much on FL only stuff, but I know I did use some, so I'm sorry. If you have any questions about anything, just let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to get back to you. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, do whatever YouTubers tell you to do at the end of their videos. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you stick around. Hope you learned something, and I hope to see you again. Goodbye.